Did you know that Max Verstappen's car could have an internal crack just before his home Grand Prix? Yes, an almost invisible fault in the RB21 threatens to ruin his weekend at Zandvoort. And the most incredible thing, Red Bull has already decided to halt this year's improvements. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, do you think Verstappen can win at home with a car riddled with problems? So, what's really going on with the RB21, and how could everything change at the Dutch GP? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Max Verstappen arrives at the Dutch Grand Prix in a position that surprises many. Despite having achieved 2 important victories in Japan and Emilia-Romagna, as well as adding 3 additional podiums, his championship position is not as dominant as expected. He currently sits third in the overall standings with 187 points, leaving him 97 points behind Oscar Piastri, the World Championship leader. For a driver accustomed to setting the pace and winning without question, this gap is beginning to weigh heavily on his mind and in the media every weekend. The real problem isn't Verstappen's talent or his ability to squeeze every millisecond out of the car. The root of it lies in the RB21 itself, a car that has become the greatest challenge of his recent career. Engineers acknowledge that it is the car with the greatest tire degradation on the entire grid. This means that, even if Max can qualify well, in the race he faces a progressive loss of performance that leaves him exposed to rivals who manage the distance better. Added to this is noticeable understeer, especially in medium-speed corners, which prevents the car from responding with the agility he needs to attack. This combination has created an unusual scenario, a world champion forced to fight with a car that doesn't always match his talents. Verstappen knows this and has hinted at it in his statements. Before Zandvoort, he stated that each race is a learning opportunity to better understand the RB21 and find performance where it seems to be lacking. It's a message that conveys calm, but it also reflects an uncomfortable reality. Red Bull no longer has the same technical security of previous seasons. For the Dutch fans, who always expect to see him dominate on his home track, the situation is even more delicate. Zandvoort is a demanding and technical track, where the car's weaknesses are easily exposed. This puts Verstappen under maximum pressure. Not only must he face a car with internal problems, but he will also do so in front of thousands of fans hoping to celebrate yet another victory on home turf. The balance between glory and disappointment has never been so tight. The RB21 is no longer a guarantee of superiority, and that makes every detail a decisive factor. What seemed like a minor problem with the RB21 eventually became a serious concern for the entire team. Just days before the Dutch Grand Prix, Red Bull team principal Laurent Mekies identified clear signs that something was wrong with the car's structure. During practice in Hungary, strange vibrations and an unusual loss of grip had been noticed, especially during phases of increased downforce. After several tests, attention turned to the car's floor, a key area that defines much of its aerodynamic performance. The theory that began to circulate was that there was a micro crack in the diffuser's center beam, a critical part for ensuring stable airflow at the rear of the car. This type of damage, almost invisible to the naked eye, has a multiplying effect under extreme conditions. On a circuit like Zandvoort, with banked corners and rapid changes of direction, a crack of this type could widen over the laps and compromise overall aerodynamic rigidity. In practice, this translates into a more unstable car, harder to control, and with a loss of performance that even Verstappen's talent can't easily compensate for. The most disturbing thing is that this isn't a problem that can be solved with a simple tune-up. The floor of the car is a delicate area, designed with an almost surgical balance between flexibility and resistance. A structural alteration means the entire aerodynamic package is compromised. And here the key question arises: how can you compete at the highest level when your car could be hiding such a profound weakness? For Verstappen, this isn't just an inconvenience. It's a real risk of losing valuable points at home and, in the process, falling further behind in the championship fight. Technical leaks have caused this issue to gain traction even outside the factory. Specialized forums are already reporting that the problem could worsen right at Zandvoort, where lateral forces reach their peak. If this scenario is confirmed, Verstappen would have to deal with a car that literally degrades as the race progresses. And while Red Bull has attempted to reassure the media that they are working to understand the situation, the reality is that a definitive solution has yet to be found. For Max, every detail of this technical investigation counts because he knows that a mistake at home would not be forgiven by either the press or his own fans. The main problem is that Red Bull has already made a decision. Development of the RB21 will be minimal from now on. For the Zandvoort Grand Prix, only a few minor tweaks to the floor edges, slight modifications to the diffuser, and changes to the front suspension covers were introduced to reduce understeer. These interventions, at best, provide a few tenths of a % improvement, but they don't fundamentally transform the car's handling. This lack of a comprehensive update package has made it clear that the priority is the future, even if it means assuming a more complicated present. However, upon receiving the news that the pace of improvements will slow drastically, the team understands that it will have to rely more on its own individual ability to compensate for the shortcomings. This isn't just a sporting challenge, it's also a political message. Red Bull is telling its champion that, for now, he'll have to settle for an imperfect car because the long-term vision takes precedence over immediate results. Laurent Mekies, for his part, has tried to smooth things over in the media, insisting that the RB21 still has untapped potential and that every race represents an opportunity to learn. However, this rhetoric hasn't entirely convinced fans or experts. This dilemma also has a very strong emotional component. Verstappen's fans expect him to win at home, and the team knows that a defeat at Zandvoort would have a huge impact, not only on the sporting side, but also on the fans' confidence in Red Bull's image. They're at a point where any decision can be interpreted as a betrayal of expectations, and that pressure can become a silent enemy throughout the weekend. Given this scenario, what happens at Zandvoort won't just be another result in the championship standings. It will be a real test of the extent of the trust between Verstappen and Red Bull, and whether the team is willing to risk part of its present in pursuit of a brighter future. The Zandvoort circuit is one of the most unique and demanding on the calendar. Its short 4.2-kilometer layout, with fast, banked corners, demands maximum aerodynamic stability and precision at every turn. For Verstappen, racing here has always held special meaning. It's his home, where the orange tide fills the stands and makes him a local hero. This emotional connection has allowed him to perform at his best in previous years, achieving 3 wins and a second place since 2021. This level of experience and knowledge of every corner, every detail of the track, is one of his greatest advantages over the other drivers. However, the big question is how the RB21 will perform in these conditions. The car is not designed to shine on a circuit that demands so much downforce and great stability during rapid changes of direction. His tendency toward understeer makes every medium-speed corner a challenge, and the high tire degradation he has shown throughout the season could be a bigger problem on such a technical track. This means that, while Verstappen may have the confidence to race on his home track, the tools he has at his disposal are not up to the challenge that awaits him. Despite these limitations, there is one factor that could work in Red Bull's favor: the variable conditions. Zandvoort is a circuit where the weather changes quickly, and rain has been a factor on more than one occasion. In a chaotic scenario, with multiple strategies and pit lane entries, Verstappen's talent and the team's ability to react could make the difference. But the other side of the coin is that relying on external factors, such as the weather, or a perfect qualifying, is not the most solid way to approach a weekend. To aim for victory in normal conditions, Red Bull would need a much more balanced car and a package of upgrades that never arrived. This puts Verstappen under maximum pressure. Any mistake in qualifying or poor tire management in the race could cost him dearly, even taking him away from the top spots. Thus, the advantages of racing at home, with the experience, motivation, and support of the fans, are offset by a car that doesn't perform as expected. The battle will be between Verstappen's talent and passion against the technical shortcomings of the RB21. And in this internal duel, the difference can lie in a tiny detail: a perfect lap in qualifying, a successful strategy, or simply a change in the weather that levels the playing field. The Dutch Grand Prix is shaping up to be a true endurance test for both Verstappen and Red Bull. The lack of a solid upgrade package and the structural issues with the RB21 mean the team arrives at Zandvoort with no guarantee of being the favorite. One of the most likely scenarios is that qualifying will be the absolute key to their aspirations. Zandvoort is a tight and difficult circuit to overtake, meaning starting from the front row may be the only way to keep their chances of winning alive. Verstappen knows he needs a perfect lap on Saturday, and every car adjustment must be focused on maximizing single-lap performance. If he doesn't secure a pole position on the grid, his chances of shining in front of his home crowd will be drastically reduced. In the race, tire management will be another determining factor. The RB21 is the car that suffers most from degradation, and Zandvoort, with its combination of fast corners and high lateral load, will only intensify that problem. Red Bull's strategy will have to be impeccable, anticipating pit stops and taking advantage of every window of opportunity. The shocking thing about this situation is that the most dominant driver of recent years arrives at his home race with no guarantee of meeting expectations. The pressure from the fans, who always expect to see him raise their arms at Zandvoort, collides with the reality of a car that isn't ready for the challenge. This contradiction is what makes this weekend a turning point. It could be remembered as a demonstration of Verstappen's indomitable character or as the clearest reflection of Red Bull's current limitations. The impact of what happens at Zandvoort won't be limited to this weekend alone. It will be a gauge of how far Red Bull is willing to risk and how Verstappen will respond under the most intense pressure possible, racing at home, with his people, with the car in question. The truth is that, whatever happens, all eyes will be on him and how he handles a scenario that could redefine the course of the season.